Hello and welcome to the Stuck in the Middle podcast. We are back, and this time with a 3-camera setup. So you've got Tom in this one, you've got me in this one, and then you've got the pair of us in a slightly updated lighting experience.
Yes,
so you can...
looking fantastic in HD.
Exactly.
My worst nightmare. You can see all the as Oliver Cromwell once said, warts and all. You can see it all in 5K now, ladies and gentlemen.
4K.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
We're not.
We haven't quite got the budget for that.
No. Please don't make me buy 4.
Haven't quite got the budget.
I think it's 6K is the next one, and that's fucking expensive.
Is
It's
it?
just the storage files, man. They're huge.
There's just too many Ks now.
Oh, it's just
Yeah.
yeah. It's literally now the special K, effectively. So it's good. But welcome to our next episode. I think lots happened since the last time. I think
World's
we've done
gone
one of these.
crazy.
Oh,
World's
it's
gone
awful.
crazy.
It's awful. It's so sad. We've been chatting kind of all week really about different parts of just Russia and the Ukraine situation.
So this will date the podcast, but Russia invaded Ukraine. What, like 48 hours ago?
Yeah,
60
like
hours ago,
yeah.
something like that.
Still can't get into Kiev, which
No.
kind of, fair play to them, well done.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah, I find it equally so sad and also so awe-inspiring that people are standing up and just saying, get out of my country.
Yeah.
This is my country, this is my home, this is my family. We're not going anywhere.
Well, it makes you think, what if that were me? You know, what would you do? And I was saying to Mum the other day, I mean, nobody wants to fight, but if foreign invaders came in such, it's basically that situation they've got in Ukraine is what I would consider one of the only situations where it seems okay to fight another human being. It's an unprovoked attack from an aggressor coming onto your soil for a reason you can't tell any other, apart from the fact that they don't like you and they want to occupy you.
Which, by the way, they don't seem to be able to tell completely why they're fighting.
No.
There doesn't seem to, apart from Vladimir has just kind of gone, yes, the USSR, let's reunite this thing.
His reasoning was the denazification
Of a Jewish president.
of the Ukraine government. So what does that mean? Where's he got the information that they're neo-Nazis?
Maybe
in
he's decided
Ukraine?
they're fascists? I don't know.
I mean, maybe they are, but I don't know. But,
They don't seem like they are. Like, of all the countries I look at and go, there could be something a little bit rotten in Denmark. That's not, and by the way, not saying Denmark's rotten, just quoting Hamlet. But the point is,
we hate you, Denmark.
Yeah. I like your bacon and your chocolate, so please.
You do good pastries.
You do. That's
good
that's very
pastries.
good. I don't know what we're doing
and
here.
they-
It's a
and
very
some
sad
rye.
issue.
You do some good rye bread. Less of that rotten fish, though. We don't want.
But the main thing that I think I've been dotting backwards and forwards with is that there are moments of kind of going, you want to mock mercilessly this stupid kind of Putin and Russian regime that's happening, but also the people that are dying are our age and younger.
Oh, it's horrific.
And if the only thing that stopped that happening for us is our passports and where we were born.
One of the latest news developments I heard was that as refugees flee the country, males between age 18 and 60 are no longer allowed to leave the country. They're
18 and 60?
Between 18 and 60, they're being turned away to say you must return to be basically a partisan force and defend the country. And they've issued a statement saying anybody who wants a weapon
gets a weapon.
will have one. Yeah.
Not sure how I feel about that. I mean,
and there's other reports of families where people have turned up on militia forces or the army, whoever the Ukrainian army, have turned up on the doorstep, and they've taken this particular example was a 23-year-old male in a family.
Right.
They took away basically a 23-year-old boy to go and fight, and they're like, they thrust a rifle into his hand. I was like, we've got to go fight now.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to that point, to be fair, hasn't it? That tough decisions are going to have to be made for them, and decisions I do not envy. But I suppose that they are going to have to go, hey, look, we're really sorry.
Yeah.
But they are here. They will kill you probably anyway. Because I don't trust this Russian army. I mean, they do not seem to be kind of abiding by kind of just any basis of law and wars.
Amnesty International have made some interesting comments saying they think there's reason to believe war crimes have already gone on.
I would have thought there already has been. Well, I mean, the whole war that they're committing at all is a war crime.
I mean, it's war. War always has war crimes. I know there are
Yeah.
rules of engagement and so on, but it's
But
very unlikely.
I thought part of the rules of engagement was there's an actual fucking reason to engage.
Well, I don't know. That's a grey area, isn't it?
You know.
But as of now, I can't think of a reason. But there you go.
No. Well, Putin can't either. I mean, that's why he's calling
He
them
just
Nazis.
wants it. It's his Lebensraum. That's all he's thinking.
Lebens what?
His Lebensraum. So that was
Is this what Hitler made up for something? Right.
Yeah, well, you know, when Hitler was doing all the land grab, you know,
Fucking Czechoslovakia, it's mine. Oh, Vienna,
The Rhinelands, come to
yeah,
me.
Rhineland, oh, it's mine.
yeah.
Oh, you know, oh, Austria, it's mine. Oh, you know, Western Poland.
Okay,
it's
we get
mine.
the point. Yeah,
he
yeah.
was he did it under the pretext of what was called Lebensraum, which means living space in German, and that was a policy that as the German people grew, he wanted more space for them to prosper in. So he was like, we're just going to take land now so that we can populate.
Isn't Germany fucking massive?
It was smaller at the time.
I mean, touche. Of course, it was small.
Pre World War I Germany was much bigger. It involved a considerable amount more land, colonies, and also land up by the Baltic states.
Oh yes, because that's true. Because that was it the Treaty of
Versailles. Yeah,
that's when kind of they basically pulled it all apart.
they got a bunch of land taken off them, which
Yeah.
is why one of the reasons it's led to World War II was one of the many reasons was they were unhappy with the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. They were very harsh.
Yeah. Well,
very harsh,
because
so.
France wanted to rip it apart. Britain was kind of there like, okay, let's just stop fighting. The USA was just there like, nah, let them keep it. This is enough punishment.
Yeah, but they had no army. That was one of the things they had to admit humiliation for the war. They had the humiliation as in they took responsibility for the entire war.
Yeah.
They had no army. They had the army reduced to something like 100,000 people.
Yeah.
With no airplanes or tanks, that sort of thing.
Were they allowed like 10 warships?
I think they were allowed
like that? Like
and they
not a
weren't
lot.
really battleships. They were like, you know, HMS Colander. It was like a tin. It was like a tub. You know, it was
Just like a
terrible.
machine gun mounted on the front.
Yeah.
Just there like, come at us, pirates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It had sails. It was style. Yeah.
Yeah. It's terrifying, though, how history looks like it's going to repeat itself.
You and I were saying, weren't we?
It's
Yes.
awful, because, like, because I think
I thought
that-
this in
Go on.
2016.
What, when they were...
When I started to get worried when, in 2016,
We left.
we seceded from the European Union.
The League of Nations, the story we were talking about this, the story of the League of Nations and how it collapsed versus
Yeah.
how it started. So,
It's very similar to now.
So we were talking. So Britain has left the European Union, which was kind of the League of Nations.
As a parallel, basically what's happened is a nation has left a large European sort of conglomerate as or super state type
Trading
thing.
block thing.
Yeah, that was put there for security.
And the Suicide Pact.
And the cracks have started to appear in it.
Yeah.
One way or another, the cracks have started to appear in this super league of whatever,
Yeah.
showing another nation that it's weak and
Yeah.
and they're preoccupied with this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
And this nation thinking everyone will be too comfortable or too preoccupied with whatever has made their move. And that's the situation we're in.
And Russia's done that now, but Japan did that, didn't they? Back in...
It was Japan in 1935 who invaded Manchuria, which is part of China.
Right.
And the League of Nations did nothing. They were like, you get out of Japan or else. And Japan just were like, fuck this. And they walked out of the League of Nations. They were like, well, we're not going to do it.
Is
No.
Russia part of NATO?
No.
Yes, they are, aren't they? No, I think Russia are part of NATO.
No, but what it did was it showed Germany. It showed Germany that they couldn't.
They could do what they wanted.
Basically, the League of Nations were a bunch of
Pussies.
limp dick. Yeah, like
Basically.
there was actually nothing backing up their words.
Sure. There was no substance to anything.
I think in a similar way, they did a couple of economic sanctions, but it wasn't enough. Which, you know, we'll see how the economic sanctions turn out on Russia, but unless they're really harsh, because there's already criticism about them not being harsh enough.
Well, I mean, I think the very obvious thing is that Putin seems to have been planning this for years now.
Oh, he has.
And he will have factored in all of the sanctions that we can throw at him. And he will not care.
I don't know if... I mean, I was surprised to find out it had actually happened, as in like, oh my God, it started sort of thing. But they've been gunning for the Ukraine for quite a long time. I mean, my last year of school, whatever it was, 2014 was when they took the Crimea.
Yes.
So when it's like you have an army or a big massive superpower that have already annexed part of your country,
yes,
on the pretense that there's a bunch of their language speakers in that area, again, was rather like Hitler.
Yeah.
Because he took over, the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia, under the pretext that there were so many, it was a large majority German speakers in that part of Czechoslovakia. So how does no one see this coming? The man is basically just, he's
following Hitler's playbook.
He's a textbook dictator.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's not even anything original about him. He's like, died in the wool dictator stuff.
Oh wow! So you're basically you're also kind of
it's like at least Hitler was original. He was the first. He was the innovator of dictatorship.
Is that you could try harder? Basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
I nearly called him Stalin then because it's basically the same thing at this point.
Well, this is an interesting point as well. It's like, what is he trying to achieve? Because he is ex-KGB.
He's getting the band back together, mate. That's what he's trying to do.
It sounds like he wants to bring back the glory of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
That's just what it sounds like to me.
I think that's definitely what he's doing. And I think because, as we've already said, the world is weak at the moment.
Yeah.
And also, did you notice he only did this after them and China went, hi.
Yeah, well, they seem... China, by the way, not condemned anything. They've been remarkably silent. Yeah. I think it's because they're quite close allies, really, isn't it?
No, they are close allies, because there was I can't remember there was something recently where China and Russia came out and just said, look, we back each other.
Right.
Okay. I think that's what's given Russia the confidence to go and do this, but also why I think probably people like me and you are I think everyone's so scared, because China and Russia teaming up against Europe, UK and the US, and that's World War III.
You say that, but I know according to statistics, only half of the Russian army is involved in Ukraine at the moment, which is something like 250,000 troops. But before this, I thought Russia had the most formidable army in the world.
No.
I thought...
China's got like 3 million soldiers.
Really?
Yeah. They got shit.
Well,
population.
Manpower is one thing, but I thought Russia had the most effective military, according to some sources.
They might do, but the thing is with that, though, what's the betting they're still using Cold War tech? That's my betting.
Well, if they've got so much of it lying around, it's only like 30 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Like the British Army was still using
some
some
better
guns
nicks than us, so,
Yeah.
It's, yeah. Well, no, I suppose that they probably are, but... Yeah, but like the US, for example, they renew all of their stuff so quickly, and because they spend so much money on.
They spend 10 times more,
than
the next 5 countries on the list in defense budget. It's something crazy like that. They spend 10 times more than the total of the next 5 countries on their defense budget.
I heard the statistic was worse. Do you remember that TV show where it was that bloke? I can't remember what it was. He was the other guy in Dumb and Dumber, the blonde guy, the one that wasn't Jim Carrey. But I remember him on a TV show. He had this epic speech where he kind of ripped America apart, and he just kind of said, the US spends more on defense spending than the next 25 countries. Next 26 countries on that list. He said 25 of them are allies, meaning the one was Russia, basically.
Right.
But basically their spending is fucking enormous.
It's mental. Yeah.
And they don't. And to be honest, under a Republican president, which it will have got bigger. So they've got Sleepy Joe Biden, who scares the crap. Honestly, him versus Putin, even just in like a foot race or a fist fight.
We were trying to figure out, weren't we, whether Putin has sort of slightly lost it, like he's gone slightly loco, sort of like early onset Alzheimer's, or I was anyway. So I made the joke to you that they could settle it man to man and just have a new Cold War 1-on-1 where they fisticuffs it out.
Yeah.
But they say to each other, right, we'll fucking meet you tomorrow, high noon in the park. Yeah. And they'd both just forget to be there because they're just...
They forget which part.
They're fucked, yeah.
Well, I was saying that also in that scenario, if they both had got these things wrong, we could just, when they're asleep, put VR goggles on them. When they wake up, whole new world. We could just send them where we want. Like, they think they're running the world.
Put
and
the
they're
VR
doing
goggles on it and just put Putin somewhere really nice, like Red Square 1980. He'll love it. Lots of jackbooted Reds walking around. Oh, I love it. Oh, a hammer and sickle flag flying. Oh, I love it. Soviet Union reborn.
Comrade!
I don't understand it though, because he obviously doesn't want all of the Soviet Union to come back because he's amassed a lot of personal wealth. If that comes back, he's got to give away a lot of the personal wealth.
Right. Is that... Would he?
Yeah, because it's obviously a communist state. You're not allowed personal wealth in a communist state, are you?
But he doesn't... but he's... This is what's interesting. He's going the fascist route. I don't think he's going the communist route.
The thing is, it's nationalism, basically.
Yeah.
It's almost now
Aggressive
pseudo-imperialism. Yeah, where it's nationalism to that level where it's like thinking, Russia is so good, we're going to export how good Russia is to other countries and make it like Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, there must be a benefit to him somewhere. But it does feel a little bit like, you know when really rich people start collecting art?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, you've bought something, and it's only a flex if other people come and see it. But really, you know, it's no use to you. That's kind of what it feels like. He's got a really expensive card game, and then he's trying to collect. Like, Ukraine will be in there, Georgia will be in there, Poland somewhere sitting on that. Anything that was behind the Iron Curtain, he wants to get that little art collection
He kind
back
of wants
together.
it, yeah.
But I can't see the benefit, because if you've got a load of people that fucking hate you, and you're trying to rule them, that's a recipe for hung, drawn, and quartered.
Well, I think, as you mentioned with the painting thing, it from a certain point, it no longer is about money being the driver, is it?
Status.
For those people, it's like status and power. It's no longer... Well, in one aspect, it will be how much did that painting cost me to buy? Sure. But then it's more about bartering status amongst your friends, saying that painting is in fact a Picasso. It was really hard to get.
Yes.
It was incredibly hard to get. I had to hire so-and-so to go and steal that out of a museum, and I can't show it to anybody. It's basically on private display in my home, and I show it to my other oligarch friends because it's a stolen painting.
But that's but I mean, this is definitely it, by the way. But it's a frightening level of ego, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just that you can
exactly.
go, I want it so other people can't have it.
Exactly.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dealing in power. You don't deal in things so petty as wealth anymore.
No.
Because wealth, you have wealth.
Yeah.
What else can you have now?
And this is definitely why he's cracked.
Yeah.
Like, let's be honest. He's cracked. There's nothing.
It's funny how before this, I used to see the playtimes of these weird politician types as sort of funny and entertaining, because before this, I didn't think Putin was... I thought he was menacing, but not necessarily threatening. And there'd be a bunch of like funny memes or stuff about Putin on the internet about how he was just like the perfect Russian, you know, like riding a horse shirtless, fighting bears with his bare hands and shit. Yeah. And stuff like that. And
he's also my height, so he's clearly got a Napoleon complex. Not saying I do, but just saying.
But it kind of makes you think about Britain here.
Yes.
It makes you think about Britain in a sense that, for one, our bumbling politician leader he's got an entertainment value to him. That's one thing I'm trying to say about it, is that it's almost like looking at these politicians. I wonder, do some people tolerate them because they have an entertainment value? Like their personality is so strong because it's the modern era of personality politics.
I mean, sorry, I missed a bit of that. He is literally the exact same height as me.
Is it?
I could play Vladimir Putin.
Must have a Napoleon complex.
He definitely. Thank you. I could play Vladimir Putin. Sorry, the end of your point was I got most of that until I got to the hard numbers.
Right.
What was the end of your point? You were saying about
well, before this,
he's a prick, basically.
Yeah, before this, I kind of considered him amongst other world leaders just good entertainment value, because I suppose it's the modern era of personality politics where nothing's ever fact checked, and you just kind of vote for whoever you like based on if you get a good vibe from them or if they're entertaining.
Which terrifies me, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, well, that's always my argument about Boris Johnson. That I know a lot of people voted for him because they thought he was funny, and it just breaks my heart when somebody says that.
And I'm not conservative aligned, but I tolerate him because he's entertaining. He's got entertainment value.
Oh, God, I don't. Also, as well, have you noticed Partygate's completely gone out the window?
What's that?
Do you remember?
It's so handy, isn't it? It's so handy having
those thousands of people are dying. We've all stopped talking about that, haven't we?
Forgive me. That whole thing. Forgive me.
I've literally had about 12 house parties.
But it was quite. I watched live the statement from the Houses of Parliament where they talked about what they were going to do, imposing sanctions on Russia, and it was quite nice actually for once in the modern era to see the Houses of Parliament, the House of Commons,
Sir Keir and Boris,
in agreement to say, we will do X, Y, and Z, and we'll stand behind the Prime Minister. And it was nice to see the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, stand up and say, we support the Prime Minister and the sanctions and so on. We need to do X, which was all very good. And the Liberal Democrats got up and did a short thing as well, but it's like, who gives a flying fuck about you?
You're on a cruise ship, you do that one night of entertainment.
10 years ago it might have mattered what you said, but who gives a fuck anyway.
I saw Nick Clegg is now the Vice President of Meta. Facebook. He's now the Vice President of Meta. Just on a completely different tangent. He is...
Money makes money, isn't it?
But it's just, how have you gone... Like, your whole thing that failed was PR, and so you've now gone into what?
I know.
How is this? What? I don't understand.
Which politician was it that was hounded over the bacon sandwich? Was that Clicky Wicky?
No, that was Wallace and Gromit lookalike Ed Miliband.
That's it, yeah. Because it was the joke about Clegg just making the sandwiches for them at Downing Street in the coalition. It's like, can I do some of the foreign office, the foreign relations decisions now? No, Cleggy Weggy, make us more sandwiches.
But I get the impression, by the way,
I'm meant to be Vice Prime Minister.
I was watching a doc about basically how Cameron fucked us into Brexit. We were that pig in that sandwich.
He used to start for this World War III. He is Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah, I mean...
He's our appeaser. Actually, no, I don't know if I'd say that.
He's the aggressor. He's I don't know. He's a dick. But I was watching this doc, and they were talking about actually Nick Clegg and the Lib Dems did a lot to stop the Tories doing what they wanted to do, and a lot of that was just cut. You're poor. You're dead. Die. Cut. NHS. Bye. Gone. Cut.
And here we go.
But literally, that's
kicking puppies and shooting orphans as they go.
But that's literally what it sounded like. He stopped them doing.
Right. He would veto the really horrible decisions.
Yeah, basically all the really horrific shit that they wanted to do.
Yeah,
which, they're fucking Tories. It's what they're built to do. They like doing that.
Yeah, that's their wheelhouse,
Exactly. We've got a slight tangent there. But Keir Starmer, anyway, basically, watching that, it's the first time where, because I remember Corbyn, he was being asked about, would you ever fire a nuclear missile, and Trident, all of this stuff. Now, at the time, I was sat there going, I do think we should look at nuclear disarmament. I tell you what, I'm eating my words right now.
Yeah.
Keep them, update them, and fire them at Moscow. That is...
No, the thing is, though, if one person fires them...
But we all die.
It'll just be like, well, fuck it, might as well end the world now.
Yeah.
They'll think that because people are selfish like that. When the chips are down, they'll think, because I can't live now, I'll spoil it for everyone else.
Do you reckon... Although they say this, I don't know if anyone would.
I think they would. Well, that madman with his finger on the button would.
Well, I reckon Vladimir would ride it into London, just kind of going, "Everybody wants to rule the world." I mean, he would do, wouldn't he? Like I
think so.
I could see.
It's interesting you say that though, because I don't think the average person. I've been reading some stuff about the psychology of warfare, and I've seen things before that say, in war, it's something like 4 in 5 soldiers in war, when they fire their rifle at someone,
cry.
They try to miss, or they close their eyes and they sort of try to miss if they have to fire their rifle at somebody, because they actually, even if it's the enemy, they don't really want to kill somebody.
God, that's tragic.
It's really depressing, isn't it?
It's so sad. I mean, and that was the thing that I found so sad about it, is that the people that are fighting and dying, it's that it's Vladimir Putin who should be on the front lines fighting his war. His own people don't want him to fight this war. They are kids dying. The same with the Ukrainians. They're defending their homes.
Yeah,
they don't. They're just going, "Why are you doing this?"
And even some of the Russian soldiers. There will be careerist pro-government soldiers in the army.
Yeah.
Of course there will.
There will be those characters from Modern Warfare 2 that'll pop out, you know.
Yeah, maybe like officers and stuff like that. But a lot of the soldiers, as of now, the reports are that some soldiers were even saying things like you said. They've been going AWOL, saying we don't want to be here.
Yeah. Well, apparently there are reports in Ukraine that these like 18 and 19-year-old kids were, soldiers, were wandering from house to house going, please, have you got any food or water? I don't want to be here. I've been forced to leave my home and come. Yeah. So they've clearly started lower level conscription, basically, to force anyone of any kind of age to go into this. So they clearly were not that prepared.
No. And other soldiers have reported that they were told by superiors that the Ukraine in fact attacked them first, and it was a response to aggression that started the invasion.
And that's the problem, that you can, I mean, it's like, you know, Russia slowed right down. You do wonder kind of that whole thing of their will.
It might be a morale problem in the army. Yeah. It's like, what are we actually here for?
Yeah. Well, their will does not outdo ours, you know. And because that's what Hitler was so clever with when, you know, with Germany. Yeah. You are taking back your lands from the people that stole it from you.
For better or worse, whatever you think about it, he was actually quite good at getting the people behind his.
Oh, he was a very good motivational speaker. Like, let's be honest. He'd have his own conferences. You know, he'd have his own TED talk. That's what he would do in Nuremberg.
Welcome to TED Berlin today. Eugenics.
Adolf, not yet. Adolf, please, don't do this. But you know, whereas. And, you know, and the people that obviously were fighting Hitler, they had something to fight for, their homes. Yeah. Whereas now the Ukrainians have something to fight for. Genuinely, I think the Russians, and because of social media, are looking around going, why are we doing this? I'm not dying for this.
That's also the fact of it. It's the modern age. It's the age of information. It's really hard to hoodwink people now.
Yeah.
So, all of those Russian soldiers will probably, because they're outside of Russia, in the Ukraine, if... You know, all they have to do is steal a radio and get access to something like the BBC World Service where they can find out what's going on.
Completely. Well, and like, I've been seeing stuff on TikTok. I mean, stuff that's going on Instagram from TikTok, because I still don't have TikTok because I'm an old man. But you know, kind of these videos on social media and kind of like these kids in the army and... Yeah. But you can see from both sides what's going on. And because like Snapchat have, do you know, the heat map?
Oh, do they?
So Snapchat, on maps on Snapchat, they have a map which basically it's got heat maps on it. So if you press on it,
is it telling you where in the Ukraine the conflict is to avoid it or something?
Well, no, it shows you where's busy and there's a lot of social media activity. So basically, there's a lot of both sides there because they're all kids. They're all putting stuff on their Snap stories.
Hey, look at that! Hey, everybody who wants to see me die.
I mean, I really want to pretend that's not what's happening, but that's definitely going to be happening, isn't it? Let's be honest.
If that were me, I think I'd do the same. I'd be like I'd have, you know, the shirt pocket. If you have a shirt pocket, it's pretty good to just put the iPhone in it. It's almost as good as a body cam. It's not quite as good, but it's almost as good.
Airless, if I get shot, it might save me.
Yeah, well, we can also see what's happening. Sell it to CNN for £1,000 or something.
Yeah, probably. Get a new iPhone that's been blown up. But yeah, no, it's I don't know, it's just so sad. I mean, you keep hearing stories, you know, like cool stories. I saw a fighter pilot who had shot down 7 Russian fighter jets on his own. Yeah. And like they called him something really cool. He's basically the Red Baron, effectively. But you know,
I'd take that, yeah.
But like the butcher of the Kremlin or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was cool.
There was the one I thought was heartbreaking was to halt a Russian advance. They'd put a bunch of explosives on a bridge, and
I saw this.
You saw this. So
yeah,
the Russian advance was coming, and they couldn't set them off remotely. So and this one guy was like, "There's no time. We have to detonate the bridge." And he detonated the bridge and sacrificed himself to stop the Russian advance. It's tragic, isn't it?
Blowing up the bridge and stopping getting to Kiev.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just so. Oh, and also those guys on that island.
Yeah, I saw that.
There were 13 of them, wasn't there?
And they got annihilated by the Russian Navy.
They took on the entire Russian Navy.
Yeah.
Apparently. Yeah. And apparently, like, they kept saying to them, surrender or this.
Yeah.
Just went,
surrender or die. This is Snake Island. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. It was just, you know, and you can't help but be inspired by those stories of bravery. Because,
I know, yeah.
You know,
it makes me think of the fighting spirit of our country, I think.
Yeah. I mean, but please don't conscript me because I'd be useless in a war.
Well, I know. Well, I would be useless because I've got a buggered hip now.
I wish I had a buggered hip because I wouldn't have to go.
Yeah, but it still makes me think if the fight came here, you'd feel compelled to do something. Or
Yeah.
I would anyway.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, I'll have to. I don't know. I don't know. They could let me sit as a navigator on a plane, but that doesn't happen anymore because there's no long range bombers that need navigators anymore or whatever.
No.
But a job like that, I don't know. You'd have to do your part for the war effort.
You probably would do, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you can go play your guitar for
God.
you know, you can go be James Blunt. There you go.
Yeah.
You
But that'd be soul destroying, wouldn't it? Everyone else is out doing proper war things. It's like Captain America in the first film. He's like, I'm just basically fucking Bette Midler or whoever. I'm just the saucy bitch that entertains the troops. It's terrible. It's not a real war job.
Yeah. He was their I keep their
Entertainment. He was
the
mascot.
Mascot. There we
Yeah.
go. He was their mascot. You could be the British Army's mascot.
Well, who would
you
want
know?
me? I'm a Tommy for the Tommies.
You've got a
the
posh
everyman.
You've got a posh accent. You've got a receding hairline, and you went to private school.
I'm
you
a
are
quintessential
classic
Brit, and I'm called Tommy as well.
To be honest, they'll probably just make you general just for being there. Just
Yeah.
go, no what, boy, you seem like the type we'd like to have in the country club.
Here's an
So
interest-
that's just
Here's an interesting hypothesis. If the fight does come here, if it does spill over into NATO and it comes to any of these countries,
yeah.
do you think Boris is up to the task, as in he's our Churchill?
Well,
do you
bear
think
in
he's
mind,
up to it?
He already thinks he's our Churchill because he's obsessed with Churchill.
Right.
And he genuinely, he is waiting for the day he can do the whole.
This is the moment for him to prove
This
himself.
is literally why he's being so strong because
Yeah.
he's looking at history right now and being just like, we will fight them on the beaches.
Well, in one way he should, because he doesn't want to be Neville Chamberlain, for example, going, we'll just roll over and give Russia the Ukraine, we'll do nothing again.
Yeah.
Because we kind of know where that leads. It's like it's been done a million times before. We know where that
Yeah.
leads. Every time you redraw the line and you're like, okay, don't cross the line this time.
Yeah.
They step over it and you're like, okay, don't cross the line this time.
And I have to admit, I'm glad I'm not Prime Minister because I was so incensed by Russia attacking, I would have sent us in. I would have gone, hey, Biden, we're doing this now.
I mean, we're already...
we're sending some weapons.
It's basically already another Cold War where we're now... Like when the Russians invaded Afghanistan in the 80s, we're already giving weapons to the people who are actually fighting them.
But we didn't publicly do it that time, which is...
The Americans did. They're very public, yeah.
They at least attempted to make it a little bit covert. I mean, I feel like this time they've
said it on the news. It's like we'll send weapons,
You know
like
what I
anti-tank
mean?
weapons,
It's not-
shit to Russia,
it's
to
not subtle.
Ukraine. No, it's not.
which
It's the age of
is-
information. The fact is now, I think, unless there was another World War III where martial-style law had to be declared in every country, they're going to struggle to keep any sort of plans covert, essentially. Because if they wanted to keep it because it would be in the Ukraine's interest to not have the entire world to know that they're getting a new arsenal of weaponry.
Yes.
Because it would be in their interest for the Russians to think they're under strength tactically.
But also from a Russian point of view, you'd like them to know, oh yeah, by the way.
Well, kind of, but I think it would be better tactically for the Russians to think you're woefully underprepared, and then to get their arse handed to them, and they find out you're actually much stronger than they thought.
I mean, I think that's already happening, by the way. From
It
reports,
sounds like it, doesn't it?
I kind of think Russia are getting their ass handed to them.
Well, it sounded like they thought they'd steamroll it, and
they just haven't.
and it's ground to a halt already. It sounds like Russian casualties have been much heavier.
But
It is much harder,
Yeah.
historically, to be an attacker. You do usually suffer more casualties
Yeah.
as an attacker than a defender.
Last count I heard, and it's definitely wrong, but I think it was 3,500.
Really?
3,500, which obviously I think Russia haven't said there's been any yet. I don't think they'll admit to it yet, basically. But I would have thought probably at least 20,000 people have died already. I would have thought. I mean,
Yeah.
just on, if you've got a couple of days of siege, and people must be moving backwards and forwards.
And the fact is, they're trying to take major population centres. So it's that kind of... The image I get in my mind is of kind of the end of World War II, where Russia are like sweeping across Europe.
to get to
viciously,
Berlin.
house by house, street by street, trying to do suburban fighting to take population centres in really brutal style fighting. Because as they said, they'd entered a suburb of Kiev, and it's really grinding down. Like it's a really ground out sort of
Warfare.
suburban fight. You know.
Yeah. Well, you're getting to Vietnam territory, aren't you? You know, with it, where you're...
The fact is, now that the president said everyone who wants a weapon can have one, you've basically made the entire country a partisan sort of guerrilla force, haven't you?
Yeah.
And that then makes it... I've heard some very interesting viewpoints to say that in war, it's better to kind of knock your enemy out fast and be tactical in the warfare. You don't want to be fighting a war of attrition where you're an occupying force trying to subdue a population, because in the past 100 years anyway, most...
morale grows.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to... There was always that... I remember the V for Vendetta thing, which was kind of like, you know... I'm an idea, and ideas are bulletproof.
Yeah.
And actually the idea of hope and a country's unity and freedom, which, you know, the president of Ukraine seems to be fostering, it's very hard to kill that.
Yeah. Well, it's like a hydra. It's like every time you cut the head off one of them, like 3 more grow out. It's like in the Vietnam War, I suppose. Every time you napalm the shit out of some radicalized Vietnamese kid, they have a family, and maybe... the other 2 brothers and the dad in the family then are compelled to join the Vietnamese army to fight against the Americans. And it just goes on like that because they believe in the cause as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's their homeland they're fighting for.
Well, yeah.
It's like, we'll fight to the death, literally.
Yeah.
We'll slug it out because it's our home.
And also, it goes back to what I used to say about how stupid America were when they kind of kept complaining about terrorist attacks.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're in Arab lands and you're there for very little reason apart from fucking oil.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, you can say there's nuclear weapons there. There ain't. And, you know, let's not pretend there are. You know, and actually, I thought about a viewpoint of Iran, for example, right? Because we all see Iran as a bit of a, you know, they're a wild card.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Iran, they wanted nuclear weapons just to defend themselves. The same as us, the same as the US, the same as France, the same as Germany. You know, like, we have nukes as like a deterrent for someone like fucking Putin. And then you see, you know, the terror of that. But yes, the US for years, and in Afghanistan and in Iraq and of all of this stuff, you've killed somebody's dad and they've grown up to then become a fighter.
Exactly.
Because they believe in something. They believe in their father's memory. And that's more powerful than money or anything you can choose.
Yeah.
And so you're right, you know, the longer this goes on...
And you've got a force there that don't want to be there.
No. Kids with iPhones.
Yeah.
You know, just because the iPhones were made by kids doesn't mean anything. But you know, I'm not sorry for that. It's true. You know what? Apple in China, they use children to make iPhones, and then their fingers break and bleed. And you know what? We're coming for everyone, okay? You know what? Russia started World War III, and they're going to start World War III. Nobody's safe anymore, okay? We're exposing everything. It's fine.
So, hypothetically...
Yes.
Do you think the war could come to the lovely rolling hilled shores of Great Britain?
Do I think it could? No. I think it will get bogged down by at least Germany or France. I can't... Unless... How many people do we think Russia has? 500,000?
In the army?
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently.
Because I reckon NATO's probably got, what, at least 100,000?
More than that, because NATO consists of...
No, but as
the main players of the EU,
but aren't there,
Britain and America.
Doesn't NATO have like a dedicated force as well as being part of a union of nations?
I believe that's how it works, yeah.
Because they have that as well as we have our own armies and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but let's
it's like we donate a portion of our armies to NATO.
Yeah, and military weapons, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, that Russia does have 500,000 people and a huge air force and a huge kind of landing force, and they have all the tech they want, right?
Yeah.
So let's be generous and say they've got 750,000 troops.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I reckon NATO's got at least 100,000. I reckon Germany's got at least 300,000. I reckon France has got at least 300,000. I reckon we've got at least... I think it's only 150, maybe 200,000, but we've got some pretty advanced weaponry.
Yeah.
The Scandi countries will join in. Poland will fucking join in. You know, and all the time, that every country they go through, Russia, people are dying all the time. And they've got a war that people don't believe in. So how are you recruiting more people?
Yeah.
So I think even just as a thing of a really awful way of looking at it, of just people dying and then getting to us, there'd be like 50,000 Russians left by the time they got to us.
Yeah.
So, and then they've got to get across it was the same problem Germany had. How would you actually invade us?
Yeah.
Because, you've got the Coast Guard, you've got every inch of this country.
Well, Britannia rules the waves, god damn it, and we're an island nation and we've got a strong navy. How are they going to get here?
Do we still have a strong navy? I saw we've got like one aircraft carrier.
We've got one man in a tub. We've been severely downsized.
We really have
imperial
been.
days.
We don't have bombers anymore. We just
we're not quite America, but I think we do have a traditionally strong navy. Yeah,
we've got something like that, and our Coast Guard. Pretty all of that. I don't know, that doesn't help, but I don't personally think unless China get involved.
Yeah.
If China get involved, my bets are all off. I'm scared if China get involved, because then I think India will have to get involved, and we will get India. So, I think it will become there'll be war on a couple of fronts, but China's military is enormous. India's military is enormous. They're both going through industrial revolutions. They can make as many weapons as they want. And if China starts backing up Russia and coming through to us, I don't know. I don't know.
We're pretty low on the priority list.
Yeah.
In terms of places they probably want to invade for some reason.
Yeah.
I suppose it's the tactical end game. Like, what is he trying to achieve out of it?
Well,
and if it is the Lebensraum type thing, he's much better.
I don't know what he's
knocking out
to do.
The big players like America and maybe Germany on that front.
Yeah, the problem is I don't know how you take out the USA.
Well, it would have to be an invasion
or nukes.
Yeah.
We both watched Man in the High Castle.
Yeah,
and it was nuclear weapons that did it.
Yeah,
you had to nuke Washington, which let's be honest, Vlad the Impaler would do.
I'm imagining a Red Dawn. You ever seen Red Dawn?
No,
that's.
I guess it's about nuclear warfare.
No, it's about the Cold War, and it's about during the height of the Cold War. I think it's from the 80s or the late 70s, right? There's actually a Russian land invasion of America,
right?
And it's about a group of kids or like people in America in the Midwest or like Arizona doing like guerrilla warfare against Russian like invaders, like paratroopers and stuff like that, and like Russian occupying forces.
Yeah,
it's called Red Dawn. It's quite interesting. It's got
sounds quite cool.
I think it had Patrick Swayze in it. I think that was one of his films. Yeah.
Oh, fair, because nobody puts Baby in Arizona.
Yeah, nobody puts Baby in a concentration camp.
Oh God. I was having that conversation with a friend earlier about Churchill, and we definitely are sure Churchill invented concentration camps.
I'm pretty sure he put Indians in them after World War One or something.
In the Boer War, it was the Boer War, wasn't it? It was the Africans, I think he was chucking in there.
Oh, no.
And it was genuinely ethnic cleansing. This is basically where, everyone got really sensitive about Churchill.
Yeah.
And they were just there we really should get rid of him.
Right.
In their defense, they're not wrong. Churchill...
Mistakes were made.
Well, the thing is, if Churchill had been Neville Chamberlain, I was theorising this, I reckon Churchill and Hitler would have got on very well. I think they have similar thoughts about kind of race and what you would, how you run countries and kind of purification of stuff.
I think at the heart I'd have to disagree at the core there, because I think what Churchill...
Yeah, but imagine if we were Italy. We were Italy in that scenario. We became friends.
It would depend on the why, though. That's the thing.
Shits and giggles.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just very interesting though that probably still is the greatest Britain that we've ever had, because he led us through probably our version of the darkest nights and all of this stuff.
Obviously not without faults though.
Not without faults.
What you're alluding to.
Absolutely, not without faults. And the fact he was quite useless as well, to be fair, because he was quite old. He was quite old, but also in the First World War he was an admiral, wasn't he? And he fucked up a load of stuff.
He was Lord of the Admiralty.
Yes, he was really bad at it,
which means he had a high up position in the navy.
Yes.
And he was responsible for the Gallipoli campaign, which was an absolute disaster.
Yeah,
he was responsible for planning the invasion.
Yeah,
which was a naval like sea to land invasion, and it went on ridiculously long, but in something like 6 months or some ridiculous period of time, they never made it off the beach of Gallipoli,
right?
Because it was a Turkish invasion, because Turkey were an Axis power during World War II, and for like 6 months or however long, Turkish defenders just sat on top of the cliffs because they'd picked the stupidest area for the invasion as well. It was a beach and then a big massive cliff. So at the back of the beach, it was just a massive cliff, and all that happened for 6 months was Turkish invaders sat on the cliff and bombed and shot the shit out of everyone on the beach whilst they tried to make headway, but they couldn't do it, and it was a massive failure.
So basically, it was trying to storm the beaches on D-Day.
It was like that, yeah.
Basically, it was
like that. But
it was the first go.
Yeah, but imagine when you can't get off the beach, what you do is like make trenches.
Yeah.
So they made a series of trenches. Turkish had some trenches at the bottom of the cliffs to try and defend, and the most successful part of the Gallipoli campaign was the retreat. Them getting away basically without the Turkish noticing to avoid a massacre.
When you have to sneak away from your enemy, you might not have subdued them.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Well, it was, and there's lots of really interesting tactics going on, like how can we escape without them noticing? Like, for example, they invented a machine so that they would have like a scarecrow of a man.
Yeah.
Like a generic Tommy dressed in a thing with his helmet standing on the parapet. And they had a machine where on a weight, on a timer, every so often the weight would go and it would pull the trigger of the rifle, just so that the Turkish people in the trench over there would think the rifle was going off. Oh, there must still be people in the trench, they're shooting at something. No, it's just they'd invented a timed, basically weight scale sack to pull the trigger every so often. It was, and things like that. But it was an absolute disaster for Churchill, Gallipoli.
I mean, that's probably why Churchill. That's probably why Boris likes Churchill so much, because he too failed upwards. So that's probably,
you'd have thought it would have been political suicide, or like the end of It was probably the end of his naval career for sure.
Yeah. It really worked out badly. He went from the head of the navy to then the head of the country.
Yeah. Well, no, he was in disgrace for a long time. He didn't go immediately to head of the country. It was like 20 years later.
Well, he was a backbencher, wasn't he? Kind of like
pretty much.
Yeah,
he was a radical.
Hitler. He was a bad man.
Well, yeah. Exactly. People didn't like him because it upset them to hear somebody say, "Oh, this Hitler man's bad news. He's going to get us all killed." Unfortunately, he turned out to be true.
Whenever I do an impression of Churchill, do you remember the dog? Remember,
you just got to imagine, like, you got big jowl.
My mouth
Oh, yeah. God. I mean, it's funny,
ridiculous.
But true. Shall we move away for like the last 15 minutes?
Just to something light and airy.
Honestly, just to something not incredibly depressing.
To take away a little bit of the sting out of it.
Yeah. I don't know what else to talk about, though. I suppose that's my problem, that what else has been going on in the world? Well, no, it's just Ukraine.
They've lifted COVID restrictions in Britain. That's the major thing.
They've lifted COVID restrictions in Britain just in time for us to fight in World War III.
Just in time for the next major disaster. It's like they've got it on a variety show of shit hitting the fan, haven't they? And
so,
now,
just keep chanting.
And now the same people that brought you the pandemic, World War III. Here we go.
You thought last summer was bad. This summer we bring.
Oh my God, it's been dreadful. It's been dreadful,
honestly,
isn't it?
This has been the last.
I was like 2022. It's looking up. And now potentially World War III. War comes back to Europe for the first time in like 70, 80 years. Yeah.
I keep seeing these things about, like, I'm really bored of living through historical events.
Yeah.
But I am really bored of living through historical events.
Yeah.
This is all stuff that we're going to have to tell our kids about.
In terms of the stuff we've lived through, it's definitely like you see it and you're like, that's probably going to be like a major world event we'll all talk about.
Yeah.
The first one I really think happened to me was Brexit. I was like, well, this is big stuff.
Yeah.
We're like leaving the European community.
Yeah.
That's massive.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's all happened rather quickly. in like bang, bang, bang. 'Cause it seemed like nothing actually happened before that. And I was like 20 when Brexit happened. So it's like for 20 years, I seem to think like politics was just a bit boring. Like, it's a bit run of the mill every day. Like no major things happened. It happened in 2016, didn't it? We were 20. Yeah.
Were we?
Yeah,
we
2016, yeah.
I know. I remember because we were coming back from Hungary.
That's right.
That's
We'd been on holiday. I remember that, yeah, because they were tallying the vote. I'd voted by postal vote because we were in Hungary, and
I
by proxy.
And I had forgotten to vote.
Oh well, people like you.
I mean, the thing is, we lost by 1 million votes, so I'm kind of, like,
yeah,
it could have been better, but
but I will always remember it because we got back incredibly late from the flight, didn't we?
Yeah,
and so John whatever was tallying it on TV as the votes come in.
Yeah,
and I remember thinking, like, Remain had a lead at that point, and I was like, oh, easy win. We'll never leave the European Union. It's an assured win. Wake up in the morning, the world has gone to shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember us sitting there with your stepdad as well, and he was kind of saying, I really feel sorry for you guys. And it was kind of all of these doom and gloom. Basically, everything that the experts said was going to happen has happened.
Yeah.
And obviously the coronavirus has made it worse.
Yeah.
But it's just all been...
Coronavirus hasn't done everything. Because, for example, at the moment, the fuel price is ridiculous in this country. It's over, like 150 everywhere you go for diesel.
Well, and that is Russia. Because that is Russia as
Partly,
well as Brexit.
But it was like that before.
It's
not
I
gone
agree.
up yet much, the price of vehicle fuel, because of the Russian invasion. But Brexit shortages were the main thing that's done that to us at the moment.
Yeah. You would think, though, because I think fuel's taxed at like 70% in this country.
Just remove some of the tax for a while.
Well, right? Like, surely that's... Well, I suppose their thing is, but we want the money or whatever. But it's like... Come on, man. Just they're like,
give the people a break. So because the cost of living is quite expensive at the moment.
It's mental, mate. I mean, I literally have just
because gas has gone up 50%, and a lot of people
electric's gone up massively as well.
No, but gas has gone up 50% here since the invasion. So that means means people heating their homes on gas, they're suddenly going to go, fuck me, the bill's going to be like incredible.
I mean, everything here is electric, so thank Christ.
Yeah.
But I mean,
we heat ours on oil, so we're not that bad.
It's just scary. I mean, I've chosen this moment to start a business, and it's like, I just feel like kind of every day it just becomes another reason of kind of like why this was a bad idea right now. This was a bad idea right now.
Yeah.
But I suppose, everything's always a hard time, isn't it, in the world? And it's just, but energy prices are insane. Car prices are insane. It's, God, the world really has gone to shit, hasn't it?
It's the shortages. It's the Brexit.
Everything's
the Brexit shortages. Yeah.
I don't yet see where it's going to get better for a lot of things. I have to admit.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Which is very depressing
because they were predicting at the time. Well, there could be ramifications for decades to come, or like a decade to come. It's already been 6 years.
Yeah, but it's only got bad since we officially left.
Yeah.
So that's only been 2 years.
But part of the reason we knew it was going to be bad because it took them like 3 years or 2 years.
Yeah, they couldn't negotiate.
They triggered that article, whatever it was, Article 27 or something.
13, something like that.
Yeah, and they couldn't, for the life of them, they couldn't get a deal. They couldn't, and this was amongst all allies. They couldn't fucking slug it out to get a trade deal. So I knew it was going to be bad at that point. That it was like they can't even just sit down and figure it out.
Well, and the reason for that was that the European Union had... I mean, that was the thing. It was like we had no negotiating position. It's in their benefit to absolutely crucify us. And in fairness...
Well, it's not, because they still do trade with us.
They do, but...
So in one way, it's like we're a massive economy. So if our economy takes a hit, then they take a hit because the less we trade, the less they trade.
Yes, but put it this way. Imagine you've got 7 children. You've, the vasectomy didn't kick in and you've got 7 children by accident.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so we'll imagine this world. So, and so basically your eldest child who, let's just say that eldest child misbehaved effectively.
Right.
But your eldest child also at the same time, he helps you with the kids. So, he goes and he picks up one of them on his way back from school. He, helps kind of with the cooking and cleaning, all of this stuff. But he's just put a brick through a window of a local shop. I mean, don't get me wrong, the person I'm painting here would not do this. But let's just go with the analogy, right? You, as a message to the other children, have got to scold that kid.
Yeah.
And kind of, give them and the other kids an incentive not to behave like this as he's the oldest one.
I get what you're saying.
Even though that kid helps you out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the European Union were at, where it's like, we've got to make an example.
They have to, I guess they have to say that because if, it's like if we succeed, then the whole point of the European Union fails because their whole point is stronger together. That's basically it, isn't it?
And I think, but I do think ultimately, sadly, I think we will end up being all right. I think it'll just take a decade.
Yeah.
And we
are already 6 years in, so it's like it's taking its time.
Well,
it's taking its time.
But again, we're not 6 years in. We're about 2 years in because we hadn't officially left. So this whole thing. So everyone thought with Brexit that it would be like you'd wake up and we've left the European Union. Did not happen like that.
I mean, for me, it did start the moment they said we wanted to leave.
Sure.
Because the moment we said we wanted to leave, our currency took a plummet. And that was it.
But politically,
yeah,
and economically, really, apart from the currency, it's only just begun. So, we're going to be 35 by the time it properly sorts itself out.
I'd imagine something like
so,
that. Yeah.
It's just all a fucking mess. God, this is depressing. What happy things can we talk about that we've seen? What's happy that's happened?
It was a nice day today.
It was a nice day.
Spring
today.
is on the way.
Spring is on the way.
That's what we have to look forward to.
It was a nice day.
Spring is on the way.